Elandskraal Pass is named after the tiny village on its eastern side. The settlement was established in the late 19th century, and its most prominent feature is the beautiful stone Lutheran church built in the 1920s. Funds to build the church were raised by organizing a bazaar, which was so successful that the surplus was sent to Germany to look after children orphaned by the Great War. The village and the pass are located quite close to the Anglo-Zulu battlefields of Rorke's Drift, Fugitives Drift and Elandskraal. The road is in a surprisingly good condition and can be driven in any vehicle, but beware of the local drivers who seem to view the traverse as their personal racetrack. All of the other hazards associated with rural South Africa also apply. We filmed this pass from east to west. It begins at the intersection of the P190 and P194 near the Elandskraal store and the Elandsheim resort. The road passes through an avenue of tall trees for the first 200 meters, then the Lutheran church comes into view on the right-hand side, which is quite an unexpected sight in this small village. The gradient now increases and the road begins to wind its way up the mountain. The road surface is good, but covered with a fine grey cinder at this point, so be careful when passing other vehicles, as the dust can be extremely abrasive. Views to the left and right open up as the vegetation becomes more sparse, consisting mainly of small trees and grasslands, interspersed with rocks. There are a total of 21 corners, bends and curves through this first section. This pass has a significant connection with the Anglo-Zulu War and more specifically with the Battle of Elandskraal. It was here that the British Army suffered one of its most humiliating defeats against the Zulu warriors of King Cetshwayo. At the 3-kilometer mark, a small village is reached and the road curves to the right through a gentle hairpin of 120 degrees, taking the heading directly into the north. Beware of livestock and other domestic animals on the road. The gradient flattens out a little and the road meanders slightly along a straight of 1.1 kilometers. A good view over the valley to your left is presented through this section. A rural primary school appears on the right-hand side and an intersection which leads off to a mission station comes up on the left. The gradient increases once more as the road begins another climb up the slopes of the Elandsberg. At the 4.3 kilometer mark, the road bends through 90 degrees to the left and the heading changes back towards the west. A series of consecutive left and right corners take you ever upward, the altitude that you've gained at this point being very obvious if you look over the valley on the left-hand side. On the 22nd of January 1879, a scouting party of mounted troops led by Lieutenant Charles Raw observed some Zulu warriors and set off in pursuit. As they approached the edge of the Mabazo, they spotted a 24,000-strong Zulu force camped below. The Zulus had intended attacking the following day, but Raw's men fired into their ranks and they began to stream towards Elandskraal. Raw reached the camp around midday to warn of the approaching enemy. A defensive line was established between the rump of the hill and across the rocky plain to the Nyokana Donga. Durnford's men, who had already commenced their advance, withdrew to the Donga when the rocket battery was overrun. The main Zulu attack began at 12:30 p.m. with 20,000 men. To catch up on the rest of the story, please read the text version on the website. Towards the top of the slope, the vegetation increases in density and the tall trees line the road once more. Still climbing but at a very slight gradient, the road continues past open pastures as the terrain now becomes more conducive to livestock farming. The road remains fairly straight with only a few gentle corners and then finally bends to the left through a gentle curve, and the pass comes to an end at the 7.9 kilometer mark, adjacent to a farmhouse on the right-hand side, surrounded by tall pine trees.